My name is James Devine. I'm the Chief Information Innovation Officer at Project Isizwe and one of the co-founders. So there are 35 million people in South Africa that don't have access to easy internet. That equates to 2 out of 3 people who can't afford or are unable to connect to the internet. So how's it possible to get a decent education? Let's look at what a kid has to go through during the day. So you're going to walk 5 k's to school. You've either got out of date or no textbook at all. They're unable to do online factual checking. The content's out of date. They can't go and do research at the library. And there's no video tutorials. I mean, my little 8-year-old boy, Seth, every time we want to do something, we wanted to build a little catapult. He saw something on TV, and he's like, he wants to build a catapult. And he's like, okay, Dad, well, let's just YouTube it. Someone there must have a video, or Google it, Dad, So, and then I would guess that 75–80% of you out there today, your last 3 jobs, if you did not have access to the internet, would you be sitting in the job you're in today or the last 3 jobs that you've had? Because let's see, how would this work without the internet? Well, you've got to go physically walk to the job boards. You've got to go update your CV. Then you've got to go print out your CV somewhere else. Then you've got to take a taxi ride to wherever you've got to go and deliver the CV to. And then you've got to wait for the telephone. And then you've got to go and take a taxi to go have the interview. Now, in Mamelodi, which is one of the locations in Tshwane where we deployed Wi-Fi, they had a problem every month. They had a community center, and they had some jobs for the internet, jobs available for the city. So what would happen is they'd come out and they'd paste all the jobs on the outside of the community center. And everyone would come and they'd start looking at these job boards. And then people would start to do some strange stuff. They didn't want someone else applying for the job that they saw on that board. So they'd take the piece of paper down. And then they start walking away. And as they start walking away, the rest of the guys who are looking at the job start chasing after. And there were fights and all sorts of things happening out there because people are trying to get the jobs. The social aspect. If I asked everyone here who has a mobile phone to take that phone and put it under your chair for the next half an hour, I'd get some funny looks. Everyone's hands will start to twitch because they're feeling disconnected. We all know that feeling when your battery's going down to the last 3% on your phone and you're closing every app and you're trying to suspend everything. Because why? The moment that phone goes offline or you lose connectivity to the internet, you just feel completely disconnected. And that is what 35 million people feel every day just in South Africa. That's their reality. So this is something that I've noticed more and more happening in South Africa, where we will have this fiber optic that's running from a metro to a metro, going past all these little villages and towns and schools along the way. So we've got this huge big river of bandwidth, which is underground or aerial, OPGW or anything like that. And I went to a school in KZN, and we're trying to look at doing a project with a foundation called Curious Learning. And I stood at the gate of the school and took that photo with my iPhone. Now that school has a completely donated computer lab. It's got tablets from one of the Google projects. It's got a Mr. Price Foundation that sponsored the location itself, and it's got some other bits and pieces inside of the computer lab. Beautiful computer lab, 0 connectivity. But I'm standing at the gate, and I take that photo with my phone. And then I turn to the right over there. Literally 10 meters away from the gate of the school is the fiber optics. And not only is it fiber optic, there's a dome joint there. But it's just going right past the school. And the more and more we get involved with these things, the more and more we see these rivers of bandwidth that are just completely bypassing the people who need it the most. So that's where we come in. So Project Isizwe is a not-for-profit organization that started about 3.5 years ago. There were 6 of us around a table, and we made the table ourselves because we couldn't afford to build one. And we had one goal, and that goal was to start creating ripples across South Africa first, but hopefully the rest of Africa later. And those ripples was getting people connected. You see, the internet is the ultimate leveling field, because it doesn't matter how much or how little education you have, how rich or how poor you are. When you get online, you all have access to the same amount of information. And when you have access to the information, you start to make right choices. And when you start making right choices, you start making informed decisions. And that is how you affect change. So this all started, like I say, in 2013. And then the executive mayor of Tshwane, Mayor Ramagopa, came around. And he basically said to us, okay, guys, we'll try this. Put it in 5 locations. If it works, we'll buy it. If it doesn't, so what? And then things got real. But you'll see the statistics just now.
As the city of Tshwane, we are looking at the innovations, looking at smart ways of improving the quality of life of our people, investing in education and making sure that there's a wide-ranging internet connectivity in the city, and also that the poor can afford it. But he also knew that Alan had the major idea of making sure that the entire continent is connected, has got access to internet connectivity so that it enables them to do a whole range of things. And out of that conversation, I think we were able to find each other. There was substantive convergence in terms of what Project Isizwe represented as an agenda or an objective for the entire continent, and that which we wanted to achieve as the city.
So then we started our deployment, and I realized something. The people are hungry for internet. So we started putting in these deployments. We didn't exactly know how we were going to do it, but we knew we could. And we started deploying these hotspot zones in 5 locations in and around Tshwane. And one of them it's a township called Tshwane. And before we told anyone it was done, or before anyone had actually announced it, the people found the Wi-Fi, and they started to use it. And we thought, great, that's our test cases. So we started to, as the network was going and we're getting ready to launch, we put in the content filtering, and we put in the usage cap, etc. And I was staying about an hour away from where the deployment was, and so we made a change at about 11 o'clock in the evening, and then I drove home, and then I don't know what everybody else does, but I check on my kid, my wife, and then the network, and then I go to bed. And I realized I'd made a mistake. So I fixed the mistake. And 22 seconds later, at 5 minutes to 1 on a Monday morning, the first person logged on. That means that user was sitting there going, click, 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 connect, connect, connect. And 5 seconds after it was done, it was brought on. And I thought, okay, so, and then I saw another, and another, and another. I thought, what on earth are these guys doing at 5 to 1 on a Monday morning? Oh, excuse the mismatch on the timestamps, by the way, because the time zones were messed up when you see the next one. But I thought, let me see what they're doing. And that's what they were doing at 5 to 1 on a Monday morning. They were looking at jobmail.co.za and jobrepeater.com. And that's the day and the moment that we realized that this stuff is going to work. So, real people, really connected. So we chose to use an example of the streetlight controller box, which you see in the top right-hand corner. We just painted it white. A couple of reasons. One is the thermal is like 9 degrees cooler than anything else. But what it also did was it became distinguishable inside of the city of Tshwane. Now, we have not had one of these boxes vandalized or stolen, and for people who know South Africa, that's a really big deal. So much so that the communities have actually started to adopt these. And as this tweet shows, they've called it the magic box. And, real people are doing it. The mayor was out and about, and this little gentleman stopped him and said, listen, sir, I'd just like to thank you for what you've done, because I was able to go online, find it, apply for the job, and I've been called in for an interview. So what do you get? 500 megabytes a day. 500 megabytes a day of free data, 15 gigabytes a month. Sure, that's pretty cool. But most public Wi-Fi is crap. It's slow. Well, when we started, we were aiming at 1 megabit a second. Then it went to 7 megabits a second in 2014. And in 2015, the average user experience is 13.5 megabits a second, 15 megabits a second, maximum throughput. We've also managed to reduce the overall cost of the base stations by 11% from when we started. So this is all completely for free. But people say, well, why, what, how? Well, this is the way that Tshwane works and the way that South Africa works. Every single person in the country is given a basic allocation of water and electricity. It's your human right to be able to have access to water and to electricity. They have taken it that says you need a basic allocation of internet. Now, this internet that the guys have is not unrestricted, go crazy, watch all the porn you want, etc. It's filtered, so they cannot watch porn, hate speech, any of these other components. There's a limitation on the peer-to-peer, all of that other things is removed off the network. And what that gives us is that very few unsavory people are actually wanting to make use of the network because they can't get out to go and do the naughty stuff. We're creating more ripples. So we've had 132 million connections on the network in the last 3 years. 2.2 million connected devices or users that have made use of this. That's 500,000 users a month make use of this service in Tshwane. It's about 980 locations that have been rolled out, approximately 2,200 and something odd access points that have been deployed throughout this component. We run about 102,000 users max a day over a 24-hour period on this network. The people love it. When we we were in Mamelodi the one time, deploying the box on the pole, and all of a sudden we hear the singing, and we look around, and there's these 3 ladies come out, and they're singing and they're dancing because they're getting free Wi-Fi. We've all seen this before. Wi-Fi used to be the bottom one. Now it's the battery. So what we've seen is that there's a huge difference between having connectivity and affording it, and having connectivity and being able to access it. And the growth that we've seen is phenomenal. The users that are going on and the knock-on effects of what we see happening is that there are businesses opening up in these internet zones, and they're offering food, drink, and other components across. And what we found is where there's shade and there's Wi-Fi, there'll be users. We've got a little lady in Shoshanguve outside of TUT where she does the best Russians and chips for $15 rand. That would be like, I don't know, 1 pence or something here in London, where her business went up 80% because she happened to fall inside of one of these free Wi-Fi zones. And so that she put up some shade net and some tables, and the students are actually coming out of the university and coming to sit at her place to make use of the Wi-Fi because of the experience. This is our network operations center in a castle, and yes, we do really work out of a castle. I really should put a picture of that on the slide here. Yeah, this has all been built because of the free Wi-Fi. And through what we're doing, we really, truly, honestly feel that we're helping South Africa, reach its important goals of transforming the country, empowering millions to take control of their lives, helping people build communities, and educating thousands. In this picture here is taken at the Union Buildings in Pretoria, and we've actually got tree fire there, so it's got trees all over the place, and the Wi-Fi is actually in the trees, and the power and the fiber optic is slung in the trees and connected to each other. And we did the presidential inauguration where there was over 20,000 people in that environment, and they were all given free Wi-Fi. We actually had some of the media leaving the media tent, and that provided Wi-Fi to come make use of the free Wi-Fi, because yeah, let's just say that they enjoyed the experience a little bit more. So if I was to say to you, a builder, an economist, and a miner walked into a bar, you think I'm going to start up one of these really funny jokes. But in reality, those three people in their previous careers are actually the core component of helping to build this free Wi-Fi. We've taken people from the local areas and the local communities, and we've got builders, miners, economists. One of the guys stopped at a robot the one day, and the guy said, "We'll work for food." And he says, "Well, you work for money." He said, got in the car, and off we went, and he's still working with us today. The community spirit that's come up around these base stations and the deployment is phenomenal. And we've actually got this thing which we started called Wi-Fi TV, which is hyper-localized TV, which is we took 8 unemployed, underemployed people. How am I doing for time there? Okay, a couple minutes. Employed them, gave them cameras, pre-post-production skills. They go out, they create their own content. They do 5 channels, Mamelodi, Shoshanguve, CBD, My City, Attridgeville. And they go out, they record it, they bring it back. They even created a couple episodes of a makeshift soap opera. They've gone out in the streets and they've asked to, so if the mayor was standing in front of you and you could ask him a question, what would you like to ask him? Comes back, he feeds back that's saying into the environment. We've created an app called Tshwane Voice, and that comes from a situation where we had a community that was without electricity for 2.5 days. And they were out of electricity, not because the city couldn't deliver it to them, it's just that it tripped and there was a fault, and no one could afford to phone in and stay on hold, because we've all phoned the municipalities. They're really not the quickest to answer their phones and waste their minutes talking to them, waiting to get answered to report the fault. So eventually they took up a collection. A guy got in a taxi and he drove off to the local community center, reported it, and the fault was fixed. So we've created the app called Tshwane Voice or Wi-Fi Voice. And what that does is now they can take the phone inside of the free internet zones, connect up, call, and talk to the call center for free, and as long as you want, without costing a cent over the network itself. We've also, as a knock-on effect, become part of the city's electrical monitoring system, because there's now almost 1,000 of these FIZs, which is a free internet zone, deployed throughout the city. We're actually starting to report power outages on behalf of people, because our connectivity is connected directly to the same city grid as them. When the power goes down at the free internet zones, we report on their behalf, and these problems are fixed. And the electrical department was thrilled that they have this kind of proactive reporting. We're creating new ripples all the time, continually expanding it. We couldn't have done this on our own. We had some amazing sponsors. One of them is Ruckus Wireless. We were out, and if they hadn't come on board with assistance to their equipment at reasonable prices, we wouldn't be here today. Neotel sponsored the first gigabits worth of internet bandwidth. We now are running at 3 gigabits a second worth of connectivity into this network at the moment. F&B, Gumtree, OmniDrive, and Connect TV. And of course the city of Tshwane, who, if they hadn't have taken the chance in us, we wouldn't be here today. And we put all this together, we close the equality gap that's been opened up in the country. Thank you.
It was a fantastic presentation, and really glad to have you here. James, we're going to move straight on to a short panel that's going to end the day, so I want to invite you to join us over here.
Thank you.